Keir Starmer is at it again, creating a stir that nobody really wanted. Unsurprisingly, this has ruffled some feathers among Republicans, particularly President-elect Donald Trump, who is now accusing Starmer of meddling in US elections. Trump's team has even lodged a complaint with the American Election Authority, calling for an investigation. Starmer's boldness could leave the UK in a tricky spot. It's definitely a daring move, but will it earn him respect or just a reprimand?
I am absolutely with you and the millions of people who think this bloke is a disgrace. He has no plan, he has no conviction, he has no backbone. I don't buy this government at all. It makes me furious with the shambles that was the Tory party. But we cannot fall for the BS that the King is going to get involved. This is not going to change the government.
Well, certainly David Lammy has tweeted his congratulations to Donald Trump. Hasn't made any mention of any previous encounters he may have had with him. We look forward to working with you and JD Vance in the years ahead. We know that Keir Starmer spent some time with Trump recently. They supposedly had a chicken dinner together in Trump Tower. But as somebody said to me, you can't really imagine them being very friendly towards each other. They're completely different.
Meanwhile, back in the UK, folks are left puzzled. With energy bills skyrocketing, families struggling, and a host of issues at home, why is Starmer so focused on campaigning across the pond? To make matters worse, this move could jeopardize the UK's relationship with its closest ally.
He has kicked me in the teeth, left, right and centre. He said, and all colleagues of his, that 4,000 of us pensioners would die under the Conservative Party, and he is no different than the Conservative Party.
Now, one little point here, folks. I've warned you in the past about smart meters, and I know whenever I do this, some people scream that I'm wrong. But I tell you what, we've actually got companies now saying, if you've got a traditional electricity meter, they may be past their sell-by date, as if it's like supermarket food. They're doing everything they can to get you onto a smart meter.
One thing is clear, Keir Starmer seems to have a talent for overlooking the obvious. While the UK grapples with soaring energy costs, tax increases, and an economy that feels like it's hit a wall, Starmer is busy getting involved in US politics. He dispatched 100 Labour volunteers to key states in America to back Kamala Harris's campaign. That's right, while Brits are trying to make ends meet, their Prime Minister is out there cheering for the Democrats. And it's not just him. The UK Foreign Minister has also had a run-in with the US President-elect, labeling him a neo-Nazi sociopath.
I would like to start by congratulating President-elect Trump on his impressive victory this morning. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath.
So Keir Starmer, the United States and France are Britain's biggest allies. You become Prime Minister, there could be a world in which Trump and Marine Le Pen are in office.
Starmer was making headlines just before he took office. It's pretty ironic, especially since he often talks about the importance of national sovereignty. He's quick to call out other nations for meddling in UK matters. But it seems that rule doesn't apply when he's getting involved in US elections. It's like complaining to your neighbour about their kids playing in your yard, then sneaking over to rearrange their flower beds. Rishi definitely saw this coming.
In the next Parliament, if I'm not your Prime Minister, every pensioner is going to be paying a retirement tax for the first time in this country's history. That won't happen if I'm your Prime Minister. If I'm not your Prime Minister, you're all going to be paying thousands of pounds to upgrade your home, switch out your boiler, change your car, because Keir Starmer's going to reverse all the changes I made so we get to net zero in a sensible way.
To add to the chaos, this move has made Labour seem more like a fan club than a legitimate government. If the Republicans regain control, they won't forget this little stunt. Critics of Starmer are saying he's risking the UK's future, and honestly, it's starting to look like they might be onto something. Kemi Badenoch, a member of the House, had some thoughts on this too.
We will discuss issues of our economy with the President-elect, as we already have done. Economy, security and global conflict are issues of real significance that ought to unite this House.
Keir Starmer's choice to get the Labour Party involved in the US presidential race isn't just stirring up political drama, it's also raising some serious legal issues. Donald Trump's campaign jumped right in, filing a formal complaint with the US Federal Election Commission, FEC, and accusing Labour of violating US election laws. Trump's legal team claims that Labour's collaboration with Kamala Harris's campaign is a clear case of foreign interference in American elections. Meanwhile, while David Lammy, the Foreign Affairs Minister, and his controversial boss were busy serving up hot samosas in Parliament, only Nigel Farage was straightforward enough to call it like it is.
I'm sure the Prime Minister and the whole House would wish to congratulate Donald Trump on his landslide victory last week.
Hold on. I will hear the question. Nigel.
He might have even secured a spot in Trump's good graces.
Well, I think Nigel is great. I mean, I've known him for a long time. He had a great election, too. He picked up a lot of seats, more seats than he was allowed to have, actually. They acknowledge that he won, but for some reason you have a very strange system over there. You might win him, but you don't get him. Nigel is a fantastic person.
This situation is more than just a political issue. It's about diplomacy now. The US is the UK's biggest trading partner, so keeping a solid relationship is crucial for economic health. By taking such a clear stance, Starmer has really put himself and the UK in a tough spot. It's no surprise that Nigel keeps pointing out the potential risks involved.
Now, I warned the Foreign Secretary 6 weeks ago in this chamber that it was an enormous mistake to do this, given that we had a US presidential election coming up on November the 5th. And if you say to me, well, yes, it's okay, the United States are fully in favour, really?
Starmer seems to have tossed caution aside, and now the UK could be staring down some serious financial fallout. It's the kind of scenario that makes economists really anxious. Kevin O'Reilly and his guest believe Starmer should make a change, starting with getting rid of the Foreign Affairs Minister, who's basically his right-hand man.
The Foreign Secretary and I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance. It was a very constructive exercise.
Let's just hope, for our sake and for Stephen Dottie's, that the UK doesn't have to travel that long, lonely road.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm afraid, obviously, I fundamentally disagree with what the honourable gentleman has had to say. Let me be absolutely clear. This government inherited a situation where the long-term secure operation of this crucial military base, he is right on that one point, was under threat. International courts were reaching judgments, international organisations were taking steps not to undermine Mauritian sovereignty. I note the comments he makes regarding the incoming US administration. We're looking very forward to working with them, and I'm sure that they will be being briefed on the full detail of this deal. And I am confident, Mr. Speaker, that the details of this arrangement will allay any concerns. We would have not entered into any such arrangement in the first place.
Things are heading in a bad direction, and a lot of people are just complaining about it. The frustrating part is that it all could have been avoided. Plus, Starmer didn't have to dive into the US elections. He could have concentrated on the UK's issues and stayed out of the drama over there. Instead, he's managed to irritate one of Britain's key allies and jeopardize the country's future. It's a daring move, for sure, but is it the kind of daring that actually earns you any goodwill?